Changi Kompanyutopsho. And the four limitless contemplations. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion, free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. Semchen damje dewa tang dewe ju tang den pa ju chik, dungal chichu tang trawa ju chik, dungal mepe dewa tampa tang mindrawa ju chik, nearing chak tang ni tang trawe tang num chimpola ne pa ju chik. Okay, everybody. So all you Cape Town people, hello, Andrews, it's nice to see you today. All you Cape Town people, I want you to really concentrate on this prayer and do it a lot, please, because it's really very necessary to do it, this Kuntuzangpo prayer. So I want to give you a little bit of background. I don't want to give too many facts because people are complaining I give too much. And once I start, it starts showering through me. And I just want to say to all of you that if you look at Kuntuzangpo, okay, Kuntuzangpo is called the Adi Buddha, the primal, first, original Buddha inside each of us, okay? And he represents, today I want you to really get a profound understanding of the prayer of Kuntuzangpo. Even if you've done this prayer before and you've done it often, this is a prayer that all of you can have copies of, both the Tibetan and the English form, because it helps every single planetary cause and particularly the pandemic. So the original Buddha represents the primal awareness of total presence. That's the universe. When we talk about the universe, when people talk about God, it's actually Kuntuzangpo. And that name means all good, but not good in the sense that we know, good and bad. All good transcends all of that. It's transcendent and supramoral. It's beyond morality because it is morality, so it doesn't have to have morality. So what I want you to do today is I want you to actually, even those of you that have done this prayer quite a lot of times, I want you to be able to take the prayer and Bern can give you copies. She can send it to Nadine. Nadine can give you copies of the prayer if you haven't got copies. They're all different translations of the prayer. It doesn't really matter. They all mean the same thing, and you can even Google them, and it's fine. But it's just that when you're using a prayer, it's nice to have the same English of it because it's translated differently. But the most important question of this prayer is, so what does it mean to be a Buddha, an awakened one? And you know, when you start making a sculpture of a Buddha, a sculpture within your own self, you're just thinking of two aspects of the nature of Buddha. One, the three kayas, which is Vajra, body, speech, and mind, or the Dharmakaya, the Sambhogakaya, and the Nirmanakaya, however you want to see it. Now, it's so important because when you are becoming Buddha, you want to take your three ordinary body, speech, and mind. So your ordinary body is one that gets old, that people take so much attention to, gym, look after, eat, and let it all go out the other end after we've eaten. We spend so much time on the ordinary body. But if we had a Vajra body or we had a Nirmanakaya, it would be able to never age. So it would be different. So when you look at a Buddha, he's got perfect body, speech, and mind. Even if you look at the physiology of the Buddha, he was perfect. Every muscle was in place, everything, because a Nirmanakaya is a perfect body. And if you look at those three, Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya, it's the essence we talk about all the time, the ground, the emptiness, out of which everything arises. The nature is the Sambhogakaya. And it's so important today for you to put these together, because at some given point in the prayer, he starts to say how the Sambhogakaya develops. So you actually learn how that Sambhogakaya develops. It's the nature of the essence. And then it has unlimited compassionate energy. We have such a limit of energy, but when you're in your 3 kayas, you have an unlimited energy. You never get tired. And so the first part of the nature is the 3 kayas, which is the essence, nature, and unlimited energy. And the second part in brief is the 5 primordial consciousnesses. Okay, now if you look at those 5 primordial consciousnesses, I'm just going to mute everybody. Some people don't seem to be muted. You can unmute when you want to talk, everybody. Okay, so when we look at those 5 primordial consciousnesses, it means, or the wisdoms, it means that if these are developed, they don't have to develop, but if you're aware of them and they're functioning properly, then there are no more poisons, and there are no more negative emotions, and there are no more mundane consciousnesses. There's no more I. There's no more 5 senses consciousnesses. There's no more any of those, the klesha consciousness, the mind, absolutely judging everything, whether it likes it, attraction and aversion. There are none of those. And instead, I want you to understand from this prayer, because this is what Kuntuzangpo is teaching us. Instead, we view the world through these consciousnesses. And what does this actually mean? I know you all rattle them off: mirror-like consciousness, equalizing, discriminating. We all rattle them off. But do we know, when we've got them awakened, what they mean? So I'm just giving you one sentence, and because when we go on to the prayer, you'll have a lot of chance to ask. But mirror-like wisdom, okay, means that everything is a reflection from your mind. Nothing is for real, and everything is a reflection of your mind, okay? And actually, there's no anger, because anything you see is just a reflection coming from your mind, from your inner imprint. So when you've got mirror-like wisdom, you can see that nothing is real. It's all just a reflection of your mind through a mirror. And anger is not real. And that's where we fall up. That's where we kill people. That's where we do these terrible things. Equalizing wisdom means everybody's got Buddha nature, so there's no more pride. So I am no longer better than you. I'm no better than the beggar. The queen is no better than you. Nobody is better than anyone else. That's how we are in our life. We see everything, even the ant, with Buddha nature. So that's equalizing primordial consciousness. Then discriminating primordial. Just giving you one sentence on all of this at the moment, okay? But discriminating wisdom, you recognize the emptiness of the object you desire. So when you desire something and it's an object, you recognize that this is only an empty object. And so we discern between relative and ultimate truth, and we spend most of our life in ultimate truth when we've got discriminating wisdom. And there's no more craving, attachment, passions. There's no more of that left. It's gone. We don't really care what we own or what we don't. And the wisdom of the Dharma Dhatu, or as it's called, the reality, truth of reality, is that we then learn, if we've got the wisdom of the Dharma Dhatu, if you've got that primordial consciousness, we learn that actually whatever is manifesting is actually pure and beautiful. And we see it like this, and we stop seeing all the negative poisons. We don't have ignorance, and we don't have delusions anymore. That's what discriminating wisdom, that's what the wisdom of the Dhamma Dhatu really does for us. And then lastly, the action accomplishing wisdom, and you'll see all of these in the prayer and how he suggests we use them. But everything in the action accomplishing wisdom, everything's spontaneous and everything's perfect. You don't actually have to make any effort whatsoever because it just comes through you. And as a result of that, there's no envy and jealousy in the world. Because when we see somebody who's got a lot or somebody who's enlightened, we celebrate that with action accomplishing wisdom. We don't go into jealousy because we know they've really come to that point and we aspire to get to that point. So envy and jealousy is absolutely gone. So in this prayer, it's a two parts of the prayer, which I'll point out to you. The first half of the prayer is the nature of ignorance, ignoring the truth. The nature, Kuntuzangpo is telling us, this is the nature. This is what you've done. This is your ignorance and your delusion, okay? And what's happened is because you can't see Kuntuzangpo in yourself or Dorji Chung in yourself, the reality is veiled by ignorance. And he's teaching you what this ignorance is. He's giving you the way out of ignorance. And also he's giving you how we got into ignorance, all in the first half of the prayer. And then the second half of the prayer is actually a meditation on the 5 forms of the negative emotions that are actually the 5 primordial consciousnesses or aspects of awareness that I've just told you now. And he keeps saying in the prayer, relax and allow total presence to assume its rightful primacy. What's he saying? He's saying, listen, your pure presence is the primary part of you. Allow it by taking a chill pull and stopping clutching onto everything and stopping organizing everything. That can take its natural place. And he says, retrieve the part of the mind stolen away by the outside. Retrieve it back and sever your attachment to everything, to all objects, and bring it back to your heart center. He says the villain is your duality, seeing yourself as separate from everything else. That's the villain. And he says, you can only stop desiring. You can't say, I'm not going to want anything anymore, because tomorrow morning you are going to want something and be attached to something and crave something. He says, the way to stop desiring is to have total presence, to have total awareness, to be in your nature, because the Buddha nature doesn't desire anything. It just desires to be. And remember, we came to this prayer last time when we were doing letting be. So this is who we are. And this is what the prayer is sharing with us. And I'm going to give you the background to the discovery of the prayer and everything. But let me just stop at this moment. And then if there are questions or comments, please give them. And then we'll do a meditation. We can even start with the thing, because I just want to say to you that I have one copy, but it's only on CD. I'm sure I could copy it onto my phone, which is in Tibetan. And then I have another copy of it in English, just in English. And you can even use the English version. I sent it to 1 or 2 of you, but you can even use the English version as a meditation. In other words, you don't even have to say it. You could just sit and say it in your mind while it's going through the English version. And maybe I'll just do the first verse in Tibetan and in English after we've meditated. So anyone want to ask? Because when you think about it, it's the most unbelievable prayer, and it's not even known on this planet. And it made miracles when it went out in Tibet in the 14th century. Crops were fertile, pandemics were stopped, fires that you got in Cape Town, everything changed if you recited it, being in your Buddha nature, it could make the most phenomenal change on the planet. So anyone want to say anything or question or ask? Mimi, can you see, because I know you've done a lot of work on the 5 primordial consciousness. Can you see what I'm trying to say this morning?
Yes, completely.
How important it is.
Beautiful.
Instead of all those negative emotions, we are using primordial consciousness. But look how much time we spend in the negative emotions of anger and pride and jealousy and envy and craving and attachment and the passions and ignorance. Look how much time we spend. And none of them are really true. So why are we doing it? Anyone want to say anything? Does it make sense how I've put it together like that? Luce, does it make sense to you how I've put it together? Okay.
Melanie,
because, yes.
Sorry. Could we get copies of the prayer?
Yes.
Okay.
Because Bern has typed it and she'll give it to Nadine, or has already given it to Nadine. Have you, Bern? And then you can get copies of the prayer. It's not very long. Only takes about 10 minutes or something to do. And it's the most beautiful prayer to do. And it's also beautiful in Tibetan. But when I do it in Tibetan, I'm watching the English because I really want to know what I'm saying when I do it in Tibetan. But it's very beautiful in Tibetan. And it was amazing in the 14th century. Any questions, anybody?
Melanie, just a quick question. You're talking about, let's stick to anger, because I think just in my context, you feel people have done wrong to your family and should be held accountable. And how do you balance normal holding people accountable, but in yourself still being staying true to yourself and not allowing the anger to become malicious,
okay, you see, when
or retribution, or because I think the being cross about something is, sorry.
No, go on, tell me. Being cross about something?
No, I said being cross about something seems like a natural thing, but I'm also seeing what you're saying. It's destructive. It never feels like a constructive good thing to do. So somehow the message can get across, because it should. If somebody has done something wrong, if a doctor has done, basically led to the death of your daughter or your father, as it did in my case, and I'm holding them to account, is it the right, is that even valid? Or do you just leave them to do what they do and say, well, the anger that is required or the emotional investment that's required is not worth it, and the world will sort them out? There are just times I feel you've got to do something, and yet I do agree with you that the anger, when it turns to anger, it's negative.
You know what, Ra? It's a very, very good question, and I'm really glad you brought it up. And you know what? You'll see that Kuntuzangpo's prayer answers that very, very thing much better than I can. But if you look at anger is mirror-like wisdom. It's truly mirror-like wisdom. Now, what I was saying to you when I said, you've definitely got hospital karma, I said, somewhere in your history, because it's unbelievable that one person within the space of 6 months can have doctors, just not doing what they meant to be doing. It's a very deep and profound and very anger-provoking circumstance. But you'll see in the prayer that it's so interesting, because none of that in front of you is anything but a reflection. And I don't expect people to understand it until they have tapped into mirror-like primordial consciousness properly. Because when you've tapped into mirror-like primordial consciousness, it's amazing, because you suddenly realize that what is being played out in front of you is a reflection of your very mind. It's nothing independent in the world where people are doing you wrong. It's exactly how it is in the world. So let's say, I mean, I'm not saying this is you, but I'm saying, let's say once upon a time, you were a proud doctor and you did things the way you wanted to, and you didn't listen to the people when they were crying to you. I'm just giving you an example. I'm not saying this is you. I don't know. I don't have clairvoyance to say. But let's say you were like that. Or in some level in medicine, you just did it the way you thought you should do it and not the way not seeing the person. Because I read these stories every day, you know, or hear them on television. Then it would happen, and depending on how deep the imprint, it would happen that mirror-like wisdom would be perverted to anger, and you would land up in a situation looking at everything with great anger, but not realizing that it was all created by you, not in this lifetime. You can't remember it, but somewhere in the past. And when you see mirror-like wisdom, the minute you get it, the minute you function in it, all the anger dissipates. So does that mean that you do nothing about it? No, it doesn't necessarily mean that you do nothing about it. If doctors have done you wrong and everything, I think it is important to send a letter and say, I'm very distressed about this. This is what I felt about the patient. I'm talking in general now, not for you, but this is how I felt about the patient. And I really think in this case, it has not been dealt with in the way that I would like it. And I would like to put that to you. Okay, that's absolutely fine, because it gives the person a chance not to go into proud doctoring and then come back in another lifetime having to go through negative karma and angers. But when people start, I'm going to get you back, I'm going to get court cases, I'm going to sue you, I'm going to get money out of you, I'm going to get all of this. All you're doing is absolutely not clearing the imprint, living in the negative emotion, and not seeing, not allowing mirror-like consciousness to come to the fore. Now, when mirror-like consciousness comes to the fore, the heart is healed. The heart is accepting. The heart is okay about the way things are. So just ponder that. I don't expect you to understand that fully yet, but ponder it and listen to what Kuntuzangpo. Would you like me to read you the chapter on anger right now? What's in the prayer? Would you like that, or would you rather we meditated and then did it? Would you like me to? Just nod your heads if you would. Okay, then let's look at what he says about anger. Right, this is what he says. As the habitual tendency, hang on a moment, when external objects appear in the prayer, the subtle consciousness of fear comes into being. As the habitual tendency of anger becomes heavier, then with the gross perception of enemy, violence, and killing come into being. When the fruit of anger ripens, and you see this all the time. I mean, I'm thinking about that woman who took out supposedly her taser gun and shot the guy. I mean, what was she taking out a gun all round? They could have just, what's her name, the prisoner, you know, easily just taken him himself. She didn't have to shoot him dead. Okay, but then with the gross perception of enemy, violence, and killing come into being. He says, when, this is in the prayer, when the fruit of anger ripens, you will suffer terribly in hell by being boiled and burnt. By my prayer, the Buddha Kuntuzangpo, O sentient beings of the 6 realms, when strong anger arises in you, neither accept nor reject it. Instead, Relax in the natural state. Having realized the natural state of awareness, may you attain the primordial wisdom of clarity, which is mirror-like wisdom. Once you get mirror-like wisdom, no more anger. Never existed per se. So isn't it fascinating how he puts this in the prayer? Think about it, because everything is let it be, let it be, let it be, which doesn't mean you don't have to write a letter or go to the person and say, listen, I'm really distressed about what happened here. I don't think you were hearing the patient. I don't think it was really the right decision. And I need to tell you this. Enough. Enough. Or to the head of the hospital, or to the medical, not the medical council. Enough. To say it as a person who's cheated and angry is more than enough. You've done it. It penetrates the heart, and you go away. Even if they pretend it doesn't, it does penetrate the heart. And what we're trying to do here, never mind, let's not talk about the hospital, but what we're trying to do here, we're trying to see anger as mirror-like wisdom, because that's what it really is. The anger is what we created when we went into ignorance. But let me do the whole prayer with you rather, because then, you see, because Robert, it goes in degrees until it gets there. So once you've got the basis, it really does. But you know, guys, the more I read this prayer, the more I don't want to rush it, okay? Because there is so much in it. Every single sentence of this prayer is telling us how to behave, is telling us how to act, is telling us who we are, is telling us how we strayed from ignorance. So it's such an important prayer. I sit with it. I let it play, and I do meditation, and I ponder deeply this prayer, because it's a very special prayer, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But let's do a little meditation, everybody. And I will play you the first paragraph, both in Tibetan and in English, so you can hear it. I just want to get it on here. But I want everybody to sit in your meditative position. And I want you to breathe in and breathe out. I want you to come to this moment, because the prayer of Kuntuzangpo is to make us really re-ponder everything in our lives. So when we sit and focus on the breath, I loved Chodron's thing that I've used in different ways, but I loved body like a mountain, very grounded, breathing like a breeze, in and out, mind like the beautiful sky, blue sky, open, spacious, able to tolerate everything, space for good and bad. Just sitting as we did last time, letting everything be in a pure state of pure presence and awareness. Not attached to anything, not going after anything at all. Just being here and allowing everything to be. Thoughts and feelings like waves in the ocean. Let them be, let them dissolve.
The Prayer of Kuntuzangpo. Ho, everything appearance and existence, samsara and nirvana, has a single ground, yet two paths and two fruitions, and magically displays as awareness or unawareness. Through Kuntuzangpo's prayer, may all beings become Buddhas, completely perfected in the abode of the Dharma. The ground of all is uncompounded, and the self-arising great expanse, beyond expression, has neither the name samsara nor nirvana. Realizing just this, you are a Buddha. Not realizing this, you are a being wandering in samsara. I pray that all you beings of the three realms may realize the true meaning of the inexpressible ground. I, Kuntuzangpo, have realized the truth of this ground, free from cause and condition, which is just this self-arising awareness. It is unstained by outer expression in inner thought, affirmation or denial, and is not defiled by the darkness of unmindfulness. Thus, this self-manifesting display is free from defects. I, Kuntuzangpo,
Just as a meditation, I'm going to play that same thing in Tibetan for you. Just meditate to it, so you get a feeling of what they're like. Just to give you a little idea of how it sounds, and you can decide for yourself. It's also beautiful in Tibetan when you've got the prayer in front of you, and I can record it and, get it on my phone if you want it in Tibetan. But just let's do a tiny bit of background, and then you can ask me questions to the prayer, and you will get the prayer, but I want us to go through it. But this is a terma. A terma is something left by Guru Rinpoche, okay? It's alive. It's taken out of the ground or out of a box in a cave, as it was in this instance, okay? And what Guru Rinpoche was trying to do was help us transfer to who we really are, wake us up. And for this pandemic, it's brilliant, because I say every day, please, can we have inner healing? I ask the Medicine Buddha, and when I do the Kuntuzangpo prayer, can we have inner healing? Not just the external healing and not just the vaccine, but inner healing. And this prayer is also known as the wish-fulfilling granting prayer. It is important. Why? Because when it's a terma, a part of a huge discovery, this prayer was amongst a huge discovery in a blue box called the Northern Treasures. If you want to Google it, it's called the Northern Treasures, okay? Therefore, it's something that Guru Rinpoche left for dark times, which we're on right now, and is alive for these times. So when this prayer is recited, immediately it gets Guru Rinpoche's vibration to change and awaken people in an amazing way. Okay. And it is said that if someone with great concentration recites this prayer, it can have an amazing effect for the whole planet. And it's also a prayer for the attainment of great perfection, of Buddhahood, okay? And all the Northern Treasure texts have retained their attraction until this time, because it's very clear and succinct. There's nothing in this prayer that's difficult. Like Robin, you said, would I understand it? There's nothing difficult. It's just as things are, okay? And it was found in a cave by a special Rikzin, that means a knowledge bearer, called Rikzin Godemchen, or in English, Master Vulture Feathers. That's who found it in the 14th century. His father was a priest and mystic of the Nyingma school lineage, and he was born on the 10th day, which is Guru Rinpoche's day, of the first month of the fire ox year in 1337, and he was born to a noble family. At 11 years old, 3 feathers of the eagle vulture magically appeared on the crown of his head. Can you imagine? He was walking around and he had these 3 feathers, okay? And when at 23, 2 more appeared on his head. So he had the 5 feathers, just like Guru Rinpoche's picture, with meaning the 5 wisdoms and also meaning the outer and the inner, having a whole lot of meaning in it. And he was a magnificent knowledge bearer. He was said to be one of the 3 supreme emanations of Guru Rinpoche. He was a special Nyingma school yogin living in a mundane world with supreme Dzogchen vision. So he had the highest vision. So first he found something directing him to the list of the hiding power places. Then at 29, he climbs into a cave of Zang Ladrak, and he discovers a blue chest with many partitions and a great wealth of northern treasures, okay? Now, I was reading another one of these treasures called Boundless Vision and came across the same story, and I thought to myself, where have I heard this story before? I know the story. Well, of course, when I taught this, then I'd heard the same story because it's the same being. I was just reading another one of these treasures, okay? And it always comes on yellow parchment, which is very exciting because with the yellow parchment, it's got the Dakini's hand. I've got to put my hands down because one little boy of one of the people that come to the group said, Mommy, why does she always use her hands when she teaches? Okay, so I thought I'd better leave my hands a bit, okay. Now what this particular treasure was called, one of the important ones, it was called Kuntuzangpo Zangtel, which means immediate transference to the dynamic of Kuntuzangpo. Wow, immediate. And he spent the remainder of his life disseminating the teaching of his revelation, because, you know, it comes in Dakini script, not in ordinary writing. So the person who discovers it has to understand Dakini script. So they have to take one letter and then it comes a whole lot of words from that. And the person who discovers is called a terton. And what happened was it reached every corner of the Tibetan world in the 14th century. And its benefits were for every department of human activities. Wars were prevented by it. Diseases eradicated. So look at our pandemic. If we were all doing it in a group, it would be unbelievable, the power. And particularly diseases caused by the spirits of disease. Now, to me, when we look at this pandemic, I mean, it doesn't matter if people get vaccinated. This COVID is not going anywhere. It's going to come in different forms. Why? Because we meant to transfer from ordinary mind to enlightened mind. And nobody's doing that. And nobody's talking about that. And we meant to do it. Those diseases caused by the spirits of disease. And at that time, cattle and crops multiplied, and there was fertile land from the prayer. And men lived in harmony, peace, and goodwill. And the treasure held the key to a Buddha field. Remember, I told you that Tulku Urgent said we all live in a near Manakaya Buddha field. And this prayer is one of the keys to the Buddha field. Following this prayer, we could alter our whole perception. The prayer is an epitome of the whole tantra, of immediate transference to the dynamic of Kuntuzangpo. And actually, the idea of transference is really no transference, because there was never any separation from Kuntuzangpo's mind. So we really just need waking up and recognition, re-knowing. As Keith Dowman says, so near and yet so far. And Zangtel means emptiness and total presence. So when you can go to your total presence in emptiness, stark awareness. And what is special about this prayer is that the words appear from the mouth of the Adi Buddha. So the Adi Buddha is talking about the prayer. That's what makes it so special. It's not a person talking about what the Adi Buddha thinks. It's the Adi Buddha talking to us. That the words appear from the mouth of the Adi Buddha. It's a perfect prayer that will be answered, that will be answered. Maybe not in the way you want it, but it will be answered. And there's no error in this prayer, nothing. It's the perfect prayer. So when you recite it, one should visualize yourself as Kuntuzangpo. Bern, have you got a Dorji Chung or Kuntuzangpo picture? Just show them, please, if you can. You can even perform Guru Yoga that unites your mind with Kuntuzangpo, that makes you feel like that. And on difficult times on the planet, there it is. Now that's the picture you visualize for yourself. You can see it in the rainbow light. So before you recite the prayer, you look at that picture, okay? And at difficult times on the planet, the power of the prayer is increased. And we're going through very difficult times. The mind's propensities, that's your habits. Your habits become more fluid. So they're not so solid. They become more fluid even when we try and get rid of them. And attachment to fixed mental dispensation is loosened. So when we've got a thing we're thinking about, like we just had the example of the anger. So we're thinking about the anger and keep allowing our minds to go back to that. So this prayer changes that habit momentum. And I think that's really all I want to say about the prayer, but maybe you want to ask or say. I'm not in a rush. I'll do it, but I think it's such an important thing. So that's all the background, the two parts, the three kayas and how we got to be ignorant. How did we get to be ignorant? And then the 5 primordial consciousnesses rather than the poisons, and how we relax into them. That's what the prayer is about. So anyone want to ask or say? It's very profound, isn't it? Are you all happy with it? So Robin, for you, this is such an important prayer, because the more you do it, the more you get to realize, and you read those sentences and you see what they're all about. It's amazing. Anyone have any questions or comments or anything they want to know?
Yes, Mel.
Yes.
At the moment, I'm hearing you and I'm understanding you and I'm using my head.
Okay.
This, for me, needs to be intimately practiced for me to realize the gap that you were trying to explain of anger becoming mirror-like wisdom, because I know from my experience and what I see with everyone else, the incredible habit momentum and compulsion to create that slight before falling into the samsaric line of reaction and turning it into that stop moment, instant, before one does that. That's meditation practice, sure, but that's also the power of these notes. I mean, this prayer that you're giving us. And I need to feel intimate with that prayer.
Good. Excellent.
That's
And say it. And that little English version that I played you was sent to me by someone, and it really, really is beautiful, because you can even just meditate with it and really, but what Kuntuzangpo, your own primordial Buddha, is saying, this is who you are. This is the reason why you strayed into ignorance. You always all ask me. And this is how you bring to light the kayas and the wisdoms, which then automatically allow you to react differently to everything. And I love what you're saying, because so often my husband challenges me, because sometimes I'm really pissed off with him, you know, and like I go, this, that, and the other. Why are you doing this? Why do you always argue with me and everything? And he goes, anger. It's so interesting, because sometimes I realize that I'm a little bit impatient. You know, that's more my anger. But what I have realized, like as you said, to notice it, is that more and more, the more I do this prayer, the more I do meditation, the more I do practice, the more I understand who we are, the quicker it leaves. I'm never, you know, the other day something happened to me, which was really quite profound and quite, I can't tell you because you'd probably know the people of what happened, but it was really quite a stirring thing that happened to me with someone in the Sangha and everything. And normally I would go on and on and on, but I'm with that awareness. I mean, I went to it, then I pull my mind, as he tells you, back. I will not allow indulgence in it. But later that day when I was meditating, suddenly I let it go, I let it be, and I bring my mind back to what I've got to carry on with during that day. I bring it back, and to the breath and to the consciousness. And then later that evening when I was meditating, it was amazing, because I did that. A whole lot of things I kind of got. It's not clairvoyance, because I'm not one bit clairvoyant, but I got to realize exactly why this person did it to me. And normally I'd be really annoyed and angry, but actually I suddenly got the insight as to how it had come about in the first place, which was what I was trying to tell Robin. And so it dissipated. And, you know, until this moment, I haven't thought about it. It happened on Friday, and I've not even given it one thought again. I said, aha, with the mirror, I see this, I know what it is, therefore let it be, and even be grateful. Be grateful. Who was I listening to? One of the masters that said, I'm so grateful. Who was it that said they were so grateful about what was happening? And I thought, my God, to have those words, I'm so grateful. This terrible thing is happening to me. I can't remember who it was. I listened to lots of stuff. But someone said, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. Can you be grateful? Very difficult. Okay, so Robin is.
I think you can be grateful.
Yeah.
And
you can stop, as you said, you can stop at that moment, bring the mind back, and then allow yourself to ponder about the real mirror, what it's showing you. Very important.
There's something wonderful that I read the other day, and it said it was about someone who got a stroke, and it said, I don't wish you the stroke, but I wish you the grace from the stroke. So I don't wish you the anger, but I wish you the grace from the anger. And I thought that was lovely.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. So let's go on to the prayer, everybody. Bern, I think you've got the same one that Eve photocopied for you. Okay, so put that one on. It's also got the Tibetan, for those of you that want the Tibetan copy. So if you can put that on, then we're going to do the first verse, because each part, it's called the Prayer of Kuntuzangpo. And thank you, Eve, for going and getting it to the post office to burn and bringing it for all of us. It's wonderful. Okay, so the Great Perfection Prayer of Kuntuzangpo. So let's read together that. Ho, you know, ho is the exclamation. Ho, so something great is coming up. All of phenomenal existence, samsara and nirvana, as a single ground, no difference, not samsara there, nirvana there, as a single ground, yet two paths and two fruits, whether the magical display of awareness or unawareness. By this prayer of Kuntuzangpo, may all beings awaken to true and complete enlightenment in the palace of the immeasurable, stainless space of phenomena. The original ground, okay, that's the first section. So just let's talk about that for a moment. The basic, just go back to that, Bern. The basic reality of the ground of being transcends all duality. How did duality come about? How do you think it came about? If we know that there is the essence, and I keep telling you this, the essence, the ground, the emptiness, the all-spaciousness, everything comes out of that, nirvana and samsara, okay? And they're just simply awareness and unawareness. Let's go to the next one, which goes with it. The original ground of everything is uncompounded. It's not divided, it's uncompounded. It is the self-originating infinite expanse, beyond where not even the name of samsara or nirvana exists. When realizing just this, you are a Buddha. A Buddha is an awakened being. When not realizing this, you are a sentient being wandering in samsara. May all sentient beings of the three realms, all three of the lower realms, okay, may they realize the true meaning of this inexpressible original ground. That's the second little chapter. May you all realize it. And then he goes on in the third one, that's the total presence of the ground of being. And then he goes on in the third one to say, just go down a bit, Bern. Not there, come down, but down. Are they there? The next one? No? Go up again, Bern. Right. I, Kuntuzangpo, that's the original Buddha, have realized the true meaning of the original ground. I know it. That's why I'm not fazed by all sorts of things. Free from cause and condition. The original ground is itself, self-originating awareness. You know, that word self is not self of you, means it arises by itself. Okay, self-originating awareness. It is not designated as outer and inner, nor is it existent or non-existent. It is not obscured by the darkness of unmindfulness. So even though you're not aware, it's still there all the time. It's not obscured. Thus, my own phenomena have never been stained. I abide in a state of natural state of self, a natural state of self-awareness. Even though the three spheres of existence are destroyed, I have no fear and I have no attachment to the 5 desirable qualities. In self-originating mind, free of thought, there is neither solid form nor the 5 poisons. The luminous aspect of awareness is unceasing, singular in essence, yet the 5 primordial wisdoms manifest. Just let's go up to there. So what do you hear here? Give me an idea of what you hear, and then we'll go on. Just put me everybody back, Burn. Then we'll come back to the thing. So what do you hear in this prayer so far? Let me hear from you. What's the basis of what you're hearing? What is the original Buddha telling us? So simple, nothing complex, nothing, anything complex, okay? Nothing complex.
I never stop hearing the word realize. That's
Okay. Excellent.
Again and again and again. So recognition and realization of whatever is no matter is
huge. It's huge. Yeah, definitely. Recognition and realization. What else do you hear in that beautiful prayer? And you can contemplate it. Man, it's nice to see you. What do you hear in that prayer, man? I mean, what's the basis of your life when you hear that prayer? I want you to give it to me, not me give it to you. What do you hear when he says, I've never been stained? It's all there. Not even nirvana and samsara exists. You know, once you are me, Kuntuzangpo, it comes from Kuntuzangpo's mouth. It's not about Kuntuzangpo. It's from his mouth. He says, this is what I've realized. Anybody give me a little summary of those 3 passages? I'd like you to tell me what you hear.
Okay, well, I'll say something.
Go, I'm glad.
He's saying that everything, the original state of us, our consciousness, our awareness is always there. It's always existing. That's the ground of everything. And it's only from our ignorance or confusion that we don't recognize that. And therefore we perceive things, and therefore we've got things like fear and all these poisons that arise. But that actually, when you recognize that everything is in that original state, you're no longer wandering in samsara, as he says. It's just
wonderful.
Yeah,
wonderful. What a brilliant thing. So how does that help us, Nick, in our day-to-day practical life? How does that help us? How does it help
so you know, in the Dzogchen, they've got that story in the Zhang Zung Nyal Gut or whatever about like how original separation or duality was created. Like, and they say that, and this happens in every moment of our life. So from that primordial ground, from that that state of everything or oneness, they say the winds moved, and we can think of the winds as our mind. So our moving mind, kind of the faster our mind moves, we thought we were separate, and we perceived ourselves as being separate, and therefore almost all of our practice is to still our moving mind. And when we can still our moving mind, we can recognize our original state, and that feeling of separation dissolves. So for me in my everyday life, knowing this helps to, you know, be very conscious and deliberate in what I do and the practices I do and the way I live my life, in order to do whatever I can to aid stilling the moving mind so that I can get back to that state.
Wonderful. I love what you're saying. I love it. I really, really do. And it's so helpful, because I can't explain something to you between the difference between thinking something and realizing something. It's such a difference, because I was watching this movie on Saturday night, one of these series, you know, where the people concerned in the movie, I won't tell you which one it was, but okay, the people in the movie were committing non-virtuous actions. Okay, so they were living one thing and they were doing something else. And I said to myself, you know, it's so strange. Even in the movies that we watch on television or the series we watch, you know, people are always committing non-virtuous actions. And you could see they're going to have a consequence. And then people are going to really cry because that consequence happens in their lives. And the next day, after pondering that, I suddenly realized what non-virtue was. I didn't think what non-virtue was. I suddenly realized, oh my goodness, every time you're rude, every time you do something like that, you're actually committing non-virtuous action. So you're setting up the chain on this level. Now go back to your original mind. I realized how we just do it. We just do it willy-nilly. And then suddenly we just do it. We just come out with things that are nasty. We just do non-virtue. And eventually it's got to land up as killing, murder, you know, doing all kinds of things that we see every day, because the propensity builds up. So it's not only listening to Kuntuzangpo's prayer, but it's realizing that we have to know something else from it. And also, in the next part, what he's doing is he's telling us the ripening of these 5 primordial wisdoms. I'll come onto it in a minute, Bern, then you can put it on, but just let me explain it. From these 5 primordial wisdoms arises the 42 peaceful Buddhas. Now, a lot of you may think, what does that actually mean? What do you mean? The 42 peaceful Buddhas arise out of the 5 primordial wisdoms, or the 5 Buddha families. Then he says, first the 42 Buddhas emerge, and then because the 5 wisdoms manifest, the 60 Herukas emerge. Those are the wrathful deities. Okay. And he says, so the next thing is, we've got 100 deities. He tells you in this prayer that we then have the expression of 100 deities within our hearts. If we could see, we would see 100 deities. Such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. And then when you die, ladies and gentlemen, when you die, as soon as you have missed the clear light, you come to the Bada of Dharmadhatu, the same as the wisdom of Dharmadhatu, and then the 100 deities manifest. They were always in you, and when you come to the Bardo, you see them. Now, lots of people can't even look at them, so they faint. And then they wake up in the Bardo of becoming. And what I want you to know from this prayer is how it all manifests. It's all you internally. And he is teaching us this in this prayer. Remarkable. So let's go on with that. He says, Okay, Bern, you can go back. From the ripening, just hang on, where are we? Where were we before? Okay, so there, on that line, right, that line there, yeah. From the ripening of these 5 primordial wisdoms, the 42 Buddhas, the peaceful Buddhas, emerge. Because the power of the 5 primordial wisdoms manifests, the 60 Herukas, the Herukas are the wrathful deities. Okay, sometimes they talk about peaceful deities, knowledge holders, Vidyadharas or Rikzins, and Herukas, who are the wrathful deities. They're all the same, but they just first manifest beautifully and peacefully. And if we say to ourselves, oh, that's me, especially after we die, that's me, that's my pure nature. That's what Kuntuzangpo was teaching us about in his beautiful prayer, left by Guru Rinpoche to teach us to transfer to that consciousness. Okay, and here it is. And so we see the 100 deities and we know from the prayer that this is who we are. And then it goes on to say, thus, original ground awareness has never been deluded. Since I am the original Buddha, and by this prayer of mine, O sentient beings of the 3 realms of samsara, may you realize self-originating awareness. May your sublime primordial wisdom expand fully. Stop there. Let's go back to that, Bern. What do you hear in this? Out of the total presence arise 5 aspects of awareness. Because the 5 aspects arise, then the 42 Buddhas, then the 60 Herukas, the wrathful ones. It's increasing the scope of pure awareness from passive total presence to active awareness. Now I'm seeing the expression of me. Very profound. I can understand that very few of you are prepared to talk about it. But what do you think? What do you think when you take this and you see that in the Bardo of Dhammata, this is what you're seeing? He's teaching you this. He's teaching you this. Put me back, everybody, Bern. What do you think about this? Is it profound or is it beyond you? Mim, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I think it's very unmuted. I think it's very profound and very hopeful because it shows that it's all there. And once we can awaken this to this light of awareness, it all unfolds and it was always there and we can always utilize all this within us.
Yes. And in the practices of the Dzogchen, it asks you to look into the sky and see the expression, the pure expression, which is the 100 deities, which is so fascinating because when you can start to see the pure elements, which are very subtle, then you don't even need to go through the bardos because you already freed yourself. The bardos are only there, the death bardos, so that you have a chance to see who you are. Isn't that amazing, Diana? Unmute yourself.
Yes, and I'm finding it quite a lot to take in.
Okay.
Just to, yeah, I think I'll just leave it there for today.
Okay.
I'm busy taking it in and
But take it. You always take it in. Sorry, carry on.
and just trying to find my way to feel it, if that makes any sort of sense.
Beautiful. And I'm very happy about it. And it takes a long time. And when you give this prayer, it actually can blow you away because it's so simple. It's so simple and so profound. You can even make your own English if the English is difficult for you. But it's the story of who you are. Now, when are we going to wake up to who we are? I mean, it's amazing. And then when he goes on, which I'm not even going to have time to get to today, but I'm not rushing. I'd rather go back and do what all of you are digesting than race through it, because this prayer has everything. I mean, most of our lives are lived around the poisons. Most of our lives are lived around ignorance, delusion, the deluded stories we tell, anger, pride, envy, jealousy. You know, most of our lives are lived around that. So what he's saying is, oh, please, sentient beings, don't delude yourselves anymore. Try and awaken so you can complete your cycle of life. Because what happens is the wheel of life, where we go on and on and on with all the propensities, is driven by your poisonous emotions. And those poisonous emotions cause karma, which constantly reinforces the propensities, the habit that drive the wheel. So lots of people just go on and on and on around the wheel of life. And it's because we just can't stop. Karen, darling, we need to hear your voice today. I want to know what you're thinking, and Andres, because I know a lot of you have done this prayer. And when I came to do this prayer again, I realized I just had learned so much more about it and learned so much more about myself, that when I listen to the prayer, which only takes about 10 minutes to do, I'm so blown away, because he says it starts with fear. It starts with fear. And then the fear makes you grasp onto everything because you're so scared of losing it. And then your grasping starts making you see it as it's mine and I'm losing it. And you start separating yourself more and more and more. That's exactly what happened in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. They were in the pure land. And they just decided, it says they ate the apple of the tree of life, okay, and God banished them. Who was God banishing them? God was ourselves, banishing ourselves, not a separate thing. And then they were out and they looked at each other and said, oh my God, what have we done? You know, God has banished us. But that was all done by ourselves, from fear. From the fear of separation, from our loneliness. When we're lonely, we just need to find distraction all the time. Okay, just say something to us, because I know you're very deep on these things. Unmute yourself. We want to hear your little voice. No? Okay, she's not. But he says, when you're unmindful, you get deluded. And in that state, you suddenly lose consciousness. And then from that unclear state, fear comes into being. And from that arises the clinging to self, to yourself and all your things, and the clinging to the enemy out there, which never was an enemy. And this habitual tendency gradually grows. And then the progressive entry into samsara occurs. And then the 5 poisons of the passions develop. And then the karma of these 5 poisons goes on and on and on, and drives the propensity of that wheel of life on and on. Therefore, the ground of the delusion of sentient beings is unmindfulness and unawareness. So by my prayer, the Buddha Kuntuzangpo, may you all recognize your own awareness. And then he goes on to all the ignorance. It's fascinating. I don't mind that you don't talk, but I don't want to go too quick and too long that I'm telling you too many things, as Diana has said. But do you kind of get what he's trying to bring across, what Guru Rinpoche wanted to explain in this prayer? Do you get that burn?
I do.
Now,
I do. And
Yeah.
I think it's something that needs to be, you need to spend a lot of time meditating on it, giving the prayer, but actually meditating on it. I think it needs, you know, even when the first copy that I did, where I actually typed, that's where I get a lot of it resonating, because I can actually, as I'm going along, I feel it more than just the straight off reading. It's an incredible prayer.
Incredible.
And I'm just finding it's so profound, and yet it should be like one of a huge practice. It should be done a lot more.
Yeah, but
and I'm wondering how many people are even aware of it.
Yeah, but that's when I taught it, then a lot of people started to actually use it on a regular basis. I use it on a regular basis. And when I'm finished with it, I thought I could just do it in one session. But you know what? It's really okay to take each, what Keith Diamond divides it into little paragraphs. I've got numbers on mine just to show, because I think it's so important to actually understand what he's trying to say, that, hey, my ignorance and my unawareness has caused all this misery around me. Sorry, Mans, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, Mel, it's one thing to have it happening, but with mirror-like wisdom, how do we get that wisdom to know what it is that's caused this?
You see, I think that's such an
important the thing.
Yeah, I think it's such an important question. But for me, the answer to that question lies in the repetition of the mirror. Because if you look at your life, it's so fascinating, like I was trying to explain earlier to Robin. He's definitely got hospital karma, okay? Can't be on one person, you know, that they keep on losing people and the doctors have not done what he's wanted them to do. It's a very profound thing. So you look at the repetition of your particular, first of all, poison, secondly, circumstance. Like I can see that most of what I've got in my life is always hitting the ego. I mean, from this high, I used to have dreams of this airplane, you know, flying above me and then breaking up into parts. And I wasn't in the airplane, I was on the ground, and part of the airplane would hit me. And I tried with so many psychologists, psychiatrists that I worked with and everything. Nobody could give me the answer. And then when I went on a spiritual path, that dream was so profound. And I said, you know, that dream is the hitting of the ego. Now, I might say to myself, well, what have I really done in this life in ego? I think even in this life, I had a certain amount of ego, but not certainly stuff that would have caused me to have a repetitive dream like that. And when I look at things, people hit me with things. And instead of looking at it and being angry like I used to, I actually look at it and try and see it in relation to the karma that I created on that relative level all those incarnations ago. So that I've got to be joyful for the people that hit me, because every single one of them is somebody that shows me the wisdom of equality, the primordial wisdom of equality, which means that no people are superior to any other people. You're just going through a different incarnation, whatever the case is. And maybe when we were growing up in an apartheid society, maybe we also had a lot of that drummed into our heads about being more superior. Even in Judaism, I was always given that kind of stuff. And now it hurts me so deeply when I see like Black people in America shouting and saying enough is enough is enough, with all the prejudice towards me and everything. That's the wisdom of equality. So you need to look at your repetitive imprints, the things that happen to you over and over again, like it happens with your parents, it happens with your siblings, it happens with your children, it happens with your teachers, it happens with, and you start to put the repetitive nature of that karma to you. And then you know that that particular primordial wisdom is the one that is really the strongest in your life. And you need to bring it forward. You need to have no bias. You need to have no pride. For me, you need to have not anger attacking whatever happened. Do you understand what I'm saying, man? So
Yeah.
if something happens once, it's not likely to be a deep imprint. It's likely to be quite a shallow imprint. But if you look through your life and you see the similar things happen all the time, I keep on getting into these situations, I keep on getting, then you can start by the letting be process. And
so how do you let be, if it's injustice, which I've been fighting since I was a young child,
okay,
and I still, in my practice, am fighting injustice. It just never ends. And the thing is, it's killing me, quite frankly.
But what is injustice? Injustice is actually justice. Okay, because nothing happens without the imprint. Sorry, but we must end because I'm late. I'll come and give that to you. But injustice is not really injustice, but of course people have to fight it. Now, if you take, for instance, it's interesting in the South African context now, please go. You know what? I'm going to go, Andres, I know. I'm going to end and then let me give you this. But it's so interesting with the justices now that David Unterhalter, who's probably the most brilliant mind that we've got in the whole of South Africa, was just left out. Why? Because he's Jewish and white. He's a white Jewish male. Okay, he's the most brilliant mind. Now you want to shout and scream and you want to say, wake up. This is the most brilliant mind we've got. Let's change things. But when you look at that injustice, we don't know whether the person has elected to pay back all the injustices of the past. You don't know what the wisdom is all about there. We don't know. We can only see as far as we can see. And this is what is so fascinating about this prayer. But let's dedicate, because some people are in a hurry. I don't want them to, and then I'll stay a little bit to talk to you. But don't worry even about putting it on, Boone. Let's just do Sonam die tamche zipane topne nepe dranam pamshene jegana jibala dropaye sipe sole doa drowarsho. May all sentient beings find their 3 kayas and their 5 wisdoms, and may they liberate themselves from all the pain and suffering. So let me end that now, and then